Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Amma ba'du fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Jazakallah for the introduction and Jazakallah for inviting me to this session, being in the esteemed company of the scholars, religious and as well as secular, because that is the intersection how the Jamaat Ahmadiyya we works in the platform for scientists and doctors. So today the talk that has been given to me, it has been focused more that how I'm going to explain about the miracle of the human creation. So that seemed to be a very, very complicated topic, a very thought-provoking topic, but I will try to mention or complete that in about 10 minutes and try to touch upon that what we are going to learn about the scientific background and the intersection of the teachings of the Holy Quran with all of its accuracy. So today what I'm going to do is just touching upon the history, that how the human embryology evolved, what is the origins pertaining to the secular knowledge, and when the human mind has been just looking into that how the embryology developed, what are the religious backgrounds for the human embryology, and how beautifully the Islamic concept 1500 years back has completed the knowledge of embryology, and how it's being verified for the last 75 years only, what has been said in the Holy Quran for the last 1500 years back. So human embryology, we can see that the word, the embryon, or the unborn embryo, it evolved from the Greek word embryology, and we can see that it is embryon. Earliest records of embryology trace back to the works of Hippocrates in about 460 to 370 BC, where it has been introduced that the food and the breath is introduced in the body of the mother, how it happens. That we're going to explore, that how it evolved and how the scholars at that time has mentioned that how embryology works in that way. Knowledge of the placenta goes back at least to the ancient Egypt, and that is about 300 years BC. Similarly, descriptions of the amniotic sac has been seen to be in the religious scriptures back in the Bhagavad Gita, that is about 500 BC to 8 BC, before the advent of any solid knowledge that we can see that has come into the scientific world. Next, we can see that the human embryology concept has been introduced by Galen, and that is back in the 1st and the 2nd century BC. Similarly, ancient Buddhist text for the Garbha Vakranit Sutra, in the 1st and the 4th century, they have mentioned about the gestation periods, that is about 38 days. So that is starting a little bit that how the gestation and the human embryology is being explained, making it intersection of the pregnancy or the peripartum period with the embryology as well. Ancient Greek literature about the embryos human blood supply and the gestational period has been the development for the male and the female, which they have contributed more towards this knowledge. But that is also not a solid knowledge. But keep in mind this timeline, the Marcello Malpighi, he was the first one who was explained in the 17th century as the embryology as a pre-formationism. It is in the 17th century, but we see that how the Holy Quran tackles that and how it explains that. So this is about from the history of the embryology by Joseph Needham. He has explained that how the embryology it has evolved. But even those books written by the historians for embryology at that time, and Keith Moore, who's considered as the person who has incepted the embryology and the peripartum science at that time, he's explained that in very beautifully, and he's also mentioned that how the Quranic verses at that time has explained that how with which the scientific accuracy the embryology has been explained in the Holy Quran. This takes us to the beautiful verse of the Holy Quran, which gives us, I'm not going to read that in detail, but Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Then we fashion the sperm into a clot. Then we fashion the clot into a shapeless lump. Then we fashion bones out of this shapeless lump. Then we clothed the bones with flesh. Then we developed it into another creation. So blessed Allah be Allah, the best of the creators. With this, we can come into, we can see that knowledge for the embryology, just internalize that. Those verses very systematically explain that how the human develops right from the conception to a complete human being, which is delivered as a little baby from the womb of the mother. So scientific accuracy, how it's been explained by the step-by-step stages. The conception of the human embryo in the mother's womb, development of the human body and the human development into the womb, how it has been explained with the creation of the bones and the flesh and the division of the cells. And of course, the embryonic stages have become a subject of great interest for the researchers who have been coming after, and I'm going to explain that later in the slides. Then the creation of a man from the mingled sperm doll. This is all about the fertilization process, which has explained the creation of the human being, and it has just been verified for the last 75 years. Genetic blueprint, this is a great scientific discovery, but it has been explained in the Holy Quran that how the fertilization, it brings into forth a human being, and that is the genetic blueprint, that how we can see a human being which is born after the birth of the baby. Sex is determined at the time of the fertilization. Similarly, embryo develops in different distinct stages, how it develops from a small clot of blood to the whole flesh and the bones, and then is delivered as a baby. Referring to the three anatomical layers which protect the embryo, this has been discovered very recently in the late 1970s and 60s, that how the protection of the embryo is brought about by the uterine layers and by the abdominal wall. We are going to see that how that scientific discovery of all these gaps that has been, the human brain has been just looking into that, but the Holy Quran has explained that very beautifully. This is just the realization of the miracle of the human creation. We can realize in the 15th century that the uterus has been mentioned, the placenta and the fetal membranes by different scientists at that time. The three anatomical layers are discovered which protect the human beings are discovered in 19th century. And the staging of the human embryo started, and people, or the scientific world, or the scientific community, they have starting mapping that. It started in 1940s. So this is just about a reference from some of the archives in which we see the 3D and the 4D explanation of the human embryo, but how it has happened for the last 75 years. Let's go into these details. The miracle of the human creation, it started in the 1940s to the 1970s when the Carnegie Institution, Washington, it has contributed to the published literature of the contributions of embryology. So the work started there. Description of the growth movements of the human embryo and the formation of specific tissues, it has been explained in 1978 with the seminal work that has been done for the in vitro fertilization. Human Genome Project, we all are aware about it. That started about 13-year efforts, and 20,000 to 25,000 human genes have been determined to complete the sequence of the 3 billion project DNA subunits, and that has recently been done about 13 to 25 years in 2003. Next is about that how we are going to conclude about that. The science of the human embryology, it evolved about, we can see, the last 130 years when it has given the concept of embryology and the development of the human being. Holy Quran has given us this analytical approach to find the compatibility of the Holy Quran and the Quranic embryology in the modern day embryology, and there are many more to come. And that, I believe, would be the time and when the Ahmadiyya Muslim scientists, they would look into it. But an appropriate description of the creation of man is highlighted in the Holy Quran. That is very sequential, that is very systematic, and those were the verses that have been explained by many speakers before my presentation, that Quran helps and in guiding towards that. Just to mention at the end that if you can just do a little Google search like that, just today, right now, and just you find that Islam and mention about the embryological concept in Islam, in Google Scholar search, you will come up with about 26,000 literature searches that will give you that how much has been done and how the Quranic concept is being incorporated even in the scientific world. So this would bring us to the end of my presentation, that may Allah enable us to be more like going into these fields and fulfilling our job towards Allah. Jazakallah.